how important is dark stores for sustaining quick commerce?
Take an example of how many users are using an iPhone in a particular given area. In case of Zepto, what is the kind of average order value of users in a particular geography? For companies like Zepto to figure out like where should I open up a dark store? On a normal day, if the time taken to reach the cornerest part of the geofence is 15 minutes, then should I reduce the geofence so that I can ensure that the delivery happens within 10 minutes? Because that's the promise that Zepto gives.
First of all, how do you get this data of where the roads are, where the cafes are, where the restaurants are?
Google is the king of B2C space, right? So they have these different signals coming in from, not many people would know about it, but there is also something known as companies like Ola, Uber, and Zepto also have more information because they have riders traveling to different parts of the city, right?
Like, how was location intelligence maybe built or used outside of India by collecting all of this data?
The West probably understood this quite early in the days.
What do you usually suggest these product managers? Stick to one industry, stick to one field, or maybe move around, see what the world is like? In today's episode, we are joined by Mr. Thiagarajan Krishnamurthy, the product leader driving maps and location intelligence at Zepto, India's fastest growing quick commerce company. Before Zepto, he spent over 14 years building maps at Booking.com, Ola, and TomTom. At Zepto, Thiagarajan and his team uses maps, location data, and geospatial intelligence to decide where to open new dark stores, how to calculate the most accurate ETAs, and how many delivery partners to allocate to meet the 10-minute delivery. How we went from being a quality specialist to leading map products at billion-dollar companies like Booking.com and Zepto. How did Zepto scale across multiple cities in India using this location data? The biggest difference in building map products in India versus the West like Booking.com. What is the future of maps in quick commerce products like Zepto, Swiggy, Zomato? And how do you actually become an expert in this field of location intelligence? So if you have ever used food delivery or quick commerce, this video is for you because this gives you a sneak peek into how Zomato, Swiggy, Zepto actually work behind the gates. So watch this video till the end from the lens of a product manager driving map products at Zepto. Hi Thiagarajan, thanks for being here. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks, Nilin, for having me here.
Awesome. So when I was looking at your profile, like you've literally been building maps over your last 10, 15 years across continents from Amsterdam with TomTom to Booking.com, Ola, and now Zepto. Like what actually pulled you into this world of maps and location data?
Yeah. No, this is a very interesting question, and this keeps coming into my mind as well. So, when I was just completing my graduation back in 2010, where maps was still at a very nascent stage in India at large, not many people were still knowing in 2010. You had this old Nokia phones with a 2G internet, and that's where one of my friend had a N95, and I saw Nokia Maps for the first time. It took like good 2 minutes to load on a 2G network, like the entire map, and
Okay.
that was my first introduction and look at maps. And after that, I think during my campus selection, had an opportunity with this company, which was actually Nokia Maps back in 2010, where they came to our campus and trying to hire like a geospatial analyst. Though my background is not into GIS or geospatial, anything like that, but I was quite interested, and I thought, let's give it a shot and see where it goes. And then now time has flew by, and I'm like into maps for like more than 14 plus years and never thought about it, but that's how it all started. Yeah.
Awesome. So you started as a like product quality specialist, I can see. So can you tell me about the early days? What did you work on and how did you get into product management per se?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, the early days were first understanding the basics of how a map is made, right? So, I was a product quality specialist, handling escalations coming in from different customers, right? So, when I
Hmm.
say escalations, these were like B2B escalations. And at that point of time, I was working with a company known as Navtech, which is now Your Maps. Navtech was owned by Nokia back in the days, and they were majorly into B2B, which was like automotive at large. And there used to be like a lot of escalations coming in from these B2B customers across the globe. And that's where my first interaction happened with a lot of product managers, where I had to do a lot of RCAs, like a deep dives, understand
Mm.
what went wrong, why it went wrong, and what are the permanent corrective actions. And mind you, I'm just um, compressing the entire process very quickly, but
Absolutely.
then a detailed, thorough RCA, which I never found in any other organizations, but that was my base towards what I was looking out for. And that's where my first interaction with product management, and I got to know like what product managers do day in, day out. And I spent in this role for good 3 to 4 years. And post that, I got an opportunity to shift into product management. And I said, okay, let's take this. And I've been waiting for this for quite some time. And yeah, that's how my career started with product management. And this is back in 2015, 16, where in India, product management was still catching up.
Right.
And these days, you have product managers across different new products. We are building new products in India. So you have that exposure. But yeah, this is back in 15, 16, where we were still catching up with what is product management. But yeah, that's how my career got started.
Right. So exactly, like product management was so nascent at that time, and like you made a switch to Amsterdam. So I think Booking.com was in Amsterdam, and back in 19, you made that switch to Amsterdam to join Booking.com. How
Right.
did that happen exactly when like product management was so nascent out there?
Yeah, I think again, the field I was in, which is geospatial maps, location, whatever you want to name it, but it's a kind of a niche field. So people still look
Hmm.
out for uh, folks who have worked in this particular background, right? Um, and that's where I think in 2019, and I vividly remember start of that year where I thought I was sitting back and I've spent like 9 years in one company and I was thinking, where am I heading to? Is this the right thing that I'm doing? I've been spending, this is my first company. I need some kind of exposure. And that's where I thought about like looking out, literally looking out. Till that time, I never tried to look out for any opportunities outside of your maps, right?
Hmm.
And that's where when I saw the world, there were quite a few opportunities, right, where people were trying to hire folks from this niche field. And
Hmm.
Booking.com was one of that company, and I was always fascinated, like traveling outside of India, and I've been to US, I've been to Slovakia, and been to a lot of places, and I always wanted to kind of explore new opportunities, and this came by quite fascinating opportunity. And I, again, very vividly remember this was pre-COVID. Everything was non-virtual. So
Hmm.
booking at that point of time gave an opportunity for your last round to travel to Amsterdam. So yeah, my last
Wow.
round was in Amsterdam with my hiring manager, and my hiring manager at that point was really cool. Guy, he took me for a coffee, and he said, "How was it going?" It was like kind of a chat that was very unusual, kind of an interview that I had and the entire experience. And he was talking about what they are doing in booking from a location perspective. So it was a really different kind of experience, which kind of opened up my entire view towards how maps are made and how the world looks at it, what different use cases that maps can be used, etc., etc. So that was a really, really wonderful experience and a good change for me. And I welcome it with open arms to really move to booking. Yeah, that's how it was.
Got it. And like I'm complete noob in terms of what maps, location intelligence, location data, all of that is. So maybe for those unfamiliar like me, like can you tell a bit about what exactly is location intelligence and maybe why is it so powerful for companies like Booking.com, TomTom, Zepto, Ola, and all of these companies?
Yeah, sure. So, on a very, very high level, so Maps is a data product, right? So it requires a huge amount of data and content to be up and running. That's how I see Maps. So when I say data, it could be points of interest, which is like your restaurants, cafe, bar, museums, etc.,
Mm.
etc. That's one kind of data. The other data is your road data, basically all your roads, your highways, your smaller roads, residential roads, private roads, everything put together. And on top of this, there are different attributes. So, say for example, when you're on the road, you have like no left turn, no right turn. You have pedestrian crossing, you have traffic signals. So there are like more than hundreds of attributes on the road, like dividers, different types of dividers, your lane markings. It can go as granular as it can
Right.
for use cases like autonomous driving, right? Where they want to know like the accuracies by centimeter. So maps is actually a huge ocean, but if I want to see it from a bird's eye perspective, so you need to have like road data with
Hmm.
basic attributes for routing. So when I say routing is basically from point A to point B, you see a route, and you see Google Maps. You search for a particular destination. It takes your current location, and it gives you a route, and it gives you another critical component, which is an output, which is ETA and your distance, how
Hmm.
much time it will take to reach the destination and how far it is. And then when you actually open up and say start navigation, it gives you like a turn by turn navigation, right? It will tell you take left from so many meters, and all these services that happens is based on, as I said, the data, the content which is there. So for example, if you don't have a restaurant, you won't be able to find it on search. Or say for example there is a missing road, it won't be able to navigate on that particular road. Or if there is a missing no left turn, it will tell you to take a left turn, whereas you
Right.
shouldn't be taking that left turn, right? So I see maps and location as a data product. um,
Hmm.
but when it comes to location intelligence, now I think things have evolved, right? So this is just pure maps, but then how do you put some other information attached to location? A location is a Latin long, right? So
Hmm.
let's take an example of how many users are using an iPhone in a particular given area. Or say, for example, in case of Zepto, like what is the kind of average order value of users in a particular geography, right?
Right.
This is where maps and data on top of it gives more power for companies like Zepto to figure out like where should I open up a dark store, how big the geofence of that dark store should be. On a normal day, if the time taken to reach the cornerest part of the geofence is 15 minutes, then should I reduce the geofence so that I can ensure that the delivery happens within 10 minutes, because that's the promise that Zepto gives. And so there are a
Right.
lot of these things that comes into picture, which is your
Hmm.
basic elements of a map. But then when you start putting them into different use cases, that's how it gives you more power to make those decisions.
Got it. Now, I'm going to start with the most basic question that one will have. Like, first of all, how do you get this data of where the roads are, where the
Yeah.
cafes are, where the restaurants are?
Yeah, very interesting. So I think Google has been on. So I've worked in like TomTom here. Both of
Right.
them are into the B2B space, not much into B2C. But Google is the king of B2C space, right?
Hmm.
So they have these different signals coming in from searches, from ads, which helps them to be like the number one in the B2C space. So you wouldn't
Got it.
find something missing on Google Maps for sure, uh, because
Got it.
that's how it has been built. Um, so the POI data, or the points of interest data, is flowing through this particular signal that we have. The road data majorly comes from different sources. These days, you have a lot of open source information available. So, in the western part of the world, these specific city municipalities and government kind of how open up the entire geospatial data. Even we have something in India which is known as the Survey of India.
Hmm.
Not many people would know about it, but there is also something known as Bharat Maps, which is again hosted by the Survey of India. They have these administrative boundaries. When I say administrative boundary, it's basically your state, then city,
Right.
district, sub-district. All this information is published by the different governments. So this is one source where you can get a lot of geospatial data. The other way different companies extract information is through satellite imageries. So you can extract a lot of information, and this I'll speak more about AI and ML on this part, right? Like that's where automation comes into picture. You don't have to like going back in days in 2010, we used to draw them manually in a proprietary tool. There's a lot of open source tool now, like the roads, and then add attributes. So basically converting the raw format of data into a digital version of it and then exposing it to customers. But these days, you can extract information from satellite images. You can figure out where are the new roads coming up, what are the new areas which are getting developed, etc., etc.
Right.
So that's another way. And then companies like Ola, Uber, and Zepto also have more information because they have riders traveling to different parts of um, the city, right? So there's something that is known as GPS traces or telemetry data. This is a critical information that any company would value. And this information helps us to identify if there are new roads coming up, what is the speed that a particular rider is traveling, calculate the ETAs for it. Is there a new building that has come up? Or is there a left turn which is allowed, but my routing shows that the left turn is not allowed, and things like that. So this acts like a feedback loop to our existing
Right.
systems, and then keep on improving it. But then yeah, technology has moved really ahead. Data has become quite open, and then with all this information available, you can kind of combine all of them together and then build your own stuff for different use cases that you have. Yeah.
Right. So you mentioned multiple data sources. So do these companies like maintain a static or maybe a moving source of data at their end by collecting all of this data?
Yeah, I mean, this data has to be updated and maintained
Right.
for sure. So there are two types of data, right? One is the static data, like there has to be a road which is going to be there for like ages together,
Right.
unless there's going to be a natural disaster, the road is not going to change. But then the road might become unavailable for certain period of time, which is like the dynamic information on top of the road, which could be because
Right.
of a temporary construction or a roadblock or a VIP movement. There could be a number of reasons, or there is a car which is breakdown on that particular road, which is impacting the traffic.
Mm.
So there are dynamic information which keeps on adding up on top of this static information. But over a period of time, the static information might also change, which you need to be aware about. For example, it was a two-lane road. Now it has become like a three-lane road. Or that road has been closed and like it was a both-way road. Now it has become a one-way. So
Right.
this static data might also change over a period of time, but not that frequent. But dynamic information does change over a period of time, and then need to have like a very constant look at it.
Right. So now you also mentioned like there was Survey of India, Bharat Maps, and I'm assuming there would be similar things outside abroad in
Yeah,
US or Amsterdam. So I'm then assuming that the like how the data comes, how frequently is it updated, and everything would also vary very much between India and outside countries. So can you share some light on how that like how was location intelligence maybe built or used outside of India, and maybe how is it used in India? What are the challenges that are there in India that could never be there outside in Amsterdam or somewhere else?
yeah. So I think the first thing that we all should understand is the geography, right? I mean, geospatial data is basically a representation of your geography. The way how geography of India or any city, tier one city in India is quite closely knitted. Like you don't have much space between probably two roads or even between two houses, right? For that example, compared to the West, right? Let's take their geography. There, the geography is quite expansive because yeah, no two houses are like so close where I can see from a balcony that what is someone doing. So the geography changes at large when you compare it with the West. That's number one. Second important thing is the importance and value of geospatial data. The West probably understood this quite early in the days, and that's the reason their data is much matured, and they started to build this right from the scratch. And how everything happens is based on this geospatial data. So whenever Let's take an example. So I used to live in this small town in Netherlands, and the town was getting expanded. And when this town was getting expanded, the urban planning team out there used to take the geography of that particular area and then map out, like, this is for residential, this is for open area, this is for parks and things like that, and that gets recorded in their database, and then they used to publish it. So that's how the entire cycle happens. Your urban planning team kind of decides like how the entire city or a new town needs to be built up. And then they have specific percentage of area given to open space and roads and everything. And compared to India, I would say it's a bit different. You have first all the houses and everything coming up, and then the infrastructure around that gets developed over a period of time. So it's kind of different in how the entire system works. And also, we don't digitalize the entire urban planning thing. And there is no, though I think now India has realized that this is very critical. They are moving to a more, I don't know if you've heard about like DigiPin, which is like a digital pin code system. So they've divided the
Right.
entire India into smaller 3 by 3 meter square, giving identification number. So the idea is that this would help to identify like your exact location compared to the
Mm.
traditional pin codes that we have had till now, which is like an arbitrary surface or a region for identification. So we are moving towards more digital information. There was a national geospatial policy in 2021 where we opened up a lot of geospatial data. Now, I think the land records are also getting digitalized. So there will be a specific lat long and the boundary which will be defined for each and every land parcel in India and will be
Oh,
digitalized and stored in the database. So we are going towards that, but I think um, we had so many other priorities to be done, so this was not in the topmost priority for us,
right.
and that's the reason Western world was probably a much more matured state compared to us. But I think we would catch up soon.
Right. And like, how do you see this happening in like Zepto, Blinkit, Zomato? All of these would be primarily focused towards tier one and then in some tier two cities, right?
Right.
How would the location and geospatial data, like, how is that in, let's say, the tier two, rest of the tier two, tier three cities? Have we reached there? What is up with that?
Yeah, I think tier two is still catching up. So for I think any of the I think Blinkit and Zomato and Swiggy's have been in this industry for quite some time.
Right.
So been in like for years together. So they have a lot of again data. So as I said, like maps and location intelligence is a data product, and once you start rolling your product out in tier two and three cities, it's kind of a data flywheel.
Mm.
The more time that you spend in these cities, the more data that you get, the better your services would get. And
Right.
then you would understand about that particular geography better. So I think these guys have probably mastered in terms of geospatial data in tier two and three cities, where they know what is the ETA to reach from point A to point B, and also know that what are the different routes taken. And also, tier two and three is not much crowded, so the traffic and rest of the things are quite eased out compared to a tier one city where the traffic pattern changes quite
Right.
instantaneously. So yeah, it comes with own challenges, but I believe like any company probably would start first investing in any geospatial data, would need to wait for some time to get the benefits coming out of it. And as I said, it's a data flywheel. Once you start getting data, slowly and steadily, you would get to know about that particular geography much better. Yeah.
Right. I'd like to go back to maybe talking about bit more about Ola and Zepto. So
Yeah.
I remember last year, like Bhavesh made this entire campaign where he asked people to like quit Google Maps, go to Ola Maps, and I just couldn't figure out why and why would people do that, and why should people maybe move to Ola Maps or maybe something more Indian, or maybe just stay on Google Maps? Is this a cost factor? Is this a data factor? What was the entire campaign about, and should people really move to anything more open source or maybe more Indian?
Yeah. So I would not really comment about any specific map provider out here, right? But
Right.
I think it's always good to have like a multiple options available at your disposal, because that brings
Mm.
in a lot of healthy competition and benefits consumers, right? That's
Right.
so anytime monopoly is something I would not really go ahead with. Duopoly may be okay, but the more the merrier for us as consumers. And
Right.
I think that's what we as a country are trying to do, right? You have providers like Map My India, now Ola, and then there is also another player who is catching up is Genesis, who is based out of Mumbai. So there are a lot of these players based out of different parts of the country, but not very well known. And I think that's what
Mm.
Bhavish was trying to make a point, that we can build something and make things much more better for a country like India again. Um, and I think more options would be much better, and then localized way of how you kind of build these apps, right, and data. Um, and why India? Again, you need to understand the geography of India. I gave you an example of how
Mm.
the geography of India differs from different countries. So you need to have, though these bigger companies have like their own data sets customized to a particular
Right.
given geography, they have their field offices, they do field surveys and understand the geography of it. But I think some of the features, and then this is something I want to be very honest with, right? Some features are always released in the Western world compared to India, and
Right.
that's where I think also Bhavesh wanted to break that culture of releasing more features compared to the Western, or at least equal features compared to the Western world. Why do you need to like wait for India to catch up? MapMy India also has done a really good job in breaking this monopoly. They have been doing a lot of things on maps and location and AI on top of it, doing like a lot of features that Google probably released, like the flyover feature. I don't know if you've used it quite recently,
Yeah.
but I think MapMy India has been doing this for ages. They have this
Wow.
feature in their app, but no one knows about it, right? That's another challenge with
Right.
India. There are a lot of things that we do, but we don't know about it. So I think this is what Bhavesh was trying to do with Ola Maps at large, and trying to break that, shake up everyone else, and trying to see that how we can build innovative products in India which will benefit us. Yeah.
Right. And from a product strategy point of view, like, does it make sense for like B2C companies like Zepto, Zomato, Ola, Uber to make their own maps and then use them, or simply use Google Maps?
Yeah. This is a very good question, and this has been asked by um, a lot of folks, right? Why do we need to build
Right.
our own maps? Um, Now, initially, when you're at the growth stage, probably this is not your focus, right? Because you want to grow, and your focus is how can you
Right.
give better customer experience? How can you add more SKUs, for example, in terms of Zepto, or for case of Uber or Ola, it's like how can I give the best in-class service and for the riders? How can I give on-time cabs? How can I be reliable every time? So these are like their P zeros when they start their business. But then over a period of time, when once you mature as a business, and now you try to see what are the other levers that you want to adjust to improve your customer experience, and that's where I think location intelligence and maps comes into picture, right? So again, getting back to the history of Google Maps, Google was primarily a B2C kind
Mm.
of a solution, or an app, web-based solution, and then they tried to monetize it using SDKs and APIs. That's how it has been built.
Right.
Uh, but for use cases like Uber, Ola, Zepto, we would like to have more granular information about, say, for example, I want to know where is my entry point to a particular society or a building? What are
Right.
the internal roads inside that particular building? What are the different blocks in a bigger
Mm.
society? Because that will help uh, for a case like Zepto to identify like how much time it will take the rider to deliver a parcel and then come back, or for Ola and Uber to navigate to the last mile area. So you call it as the last mile, right? The last
Right.
50 to 100 meters. So these kind of data sets at large are are missing with most of the providers.
Hmm.
So this is where I think Ola, Uber also trying to build their own stuff. And Zepto also wants to customize a lot of features on top of what Google is providing to get better with the overall experience. And this will, at the end of the day, benefit the customers, right? I would get to
Right.
know like what is the exact time in which my Zepto parcel is going to be delivered compared to something which would be off by 2 or 3 minutes. Though in today's world, like people have taken it for granted that 10 minutes means 10 minutes. So
Right.
even a couple of minutes delay is a huge hit for it, and that's how we see it. I mean, for us, every second matters. Like when we are building a feature, and this was quite surprising to me because I don't come from a quick commerce background. Like
Right.
there were features that helped us to improve a metric around like the last mile time that we save from the dark store till the customer's address. We call it as a last mile time. So
Hmm.
we say like 20 seconds have been improved or 15 seconds have been improved. So we measure it at that granular level, which will
Wow.
in turn help customers to get a better experience. So for this to happen, it's important that you have a bit more customized data, which I think Google has also started to realize this, and other players have also started to realize this at large and trying to build more custom solutions for different use cases. So
Okay.
again, recently they have started to identify like the entry point of different societies and
Hmm.
buildings.
Right.
They launched this feature at large, so you see a lot of them. But I think probably it was too late, and they're just trying to catch up. Um, and Amazon is doing a lot of things on. So I didn't speak about Amazon. Amazon is also one of the companies who are
Oh.
heavily investing in geospatial data, location intelligence. They also have their own set of data sets because they have millions of deliveries happening across
Right.
not just tier one but two and three cities also. So they have a huge data of GPS traces from their riders. They're also, I heard, capturing a lot of videos from the rider to understand like how the geography is changing to keep it up to date, etc., etc. So I think most of these companies will invest, but it's just a matter of time when they will start investing it. Because at the end of the
Hmm.
day, these are like critical parameters. Without a map, Zepto cannot understand how much time it will take to reach the customer. Without a map, Uber won't be able to understand the destination. So these are like very critical components to the business, the core business of. But I think to start with, they would always start with a ready-made solution which is available, and then over a period of time, customize on top of it.
Right. Now, we talked about quick commerce, so I want to get into a bit of quick commerce as well, especially Zepto being the company without a parent per se, right? Like
Yeah.
Instamart has their parent, uh, Blinkit has their parent. So what was like Zepto's strategy here, like with regards to like competing with these big players like Zomato and you can talk about location intelligence and everything, but what do you think really played out well for Zepto?
Yeah, I think, and this is my personal thought
Right.
around Zepto, right? And when I hear when Adit and KV speak about this, specifically Adit, about how did they start building Zepto as an app. This I think this was during COVID and lockdown, where they personally delivered a lot of uh,
Right.
goods to different customers, and they had like a WhatsApp group to do this.
Right.
I'm just imagining the kind of experience that they would have got firsthand, and that too during lockdown. And they built a small POC, I think. They were still trying to figure out what is the PMF, product market fit, at that time. And I think once they started to figure out the exact PMF, and then they grew exponentially across different geographies in India. So I
Right.
think the first step for Zepto was to find that PMF, and that's where I think this promise of 10-minute delivery
Hmm.
was amazing, right? Like again, I would like to compare this with the Western world. Like staying in Netherlands, 10-minute delivery was
Unheard of.
probably kind of, but it used to cost a lot, right? Like there used to
Right.
be, it used to be a costly affair, and people traditionally don't um, want these quick commerce companies. So, like the Amsterdam municipality did not want quick commerce dark stores to be set up near residential areas. So, they had a different rule to set up these dark stores. There are a lot of
Wow.
such hindrances in terms of how do you build this entire product, right? I I think when I moved to the Netherlands, Amazon was still just a bookstore in the Netherlands because there was no market out
Oh,
there. So we used to get most of the things delivered from the Germany Amazon, not the Netherlands Amazon. And it used to take
okay.
like a good 1.5 week back in 2020. So it's not that far. It's just like 4 years
Right.
back. So I think not all the countries do have these kind of, I think, opportunities and ease of having your life. But I think Touchwood India has it. And that's where I think Zepto started to utilize this 10-minute delivery
Hmm.
promise as one of the key USP. I think till that time, Blinkit, I'm not sure, used to deliver in 10 minutes or not. But I used to order before Blinkit became actually Blinkit. It was still Grofers at that point of
Grofers,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, so it used to take like good few hours. And many times, like the product that I ordered versus what got delivered was not the same. The quality was not that great, etc., etc. There's a lot of
Right.
issues with that entire again product market fit. But what Zepto did was kind of and everyone was saying, right, like this wouldn't work in India, but looking at the scale now, like everyone is investing. I heard that Amazon is also coming into quick commerce.
Right.
Soon they are doing some pilots in Bangalore. So everyone has understood that there is a market for quick commerce, and Zepto probably was one of the drivers in this particular space, I would say. And
Right.
and now they are where they are. Yeah.
Right. And they have absolutely like taken the market, they expanded the market as well because first it was only grocery. Now there's food. Now
Yeah.
there's food and there's daily help and
Yeah.
there's all sorts of things with Snabbit and everything. So they have expanded the market as well in
Yeah.
terms of quick commerce too, which
No,
is
no,
really
absolutely.
fascinating.
Absolutely, because I was talking to one of my friend in the Middle East, and I was showing him like I can get an iPhone in 10 minutes, or I
Right.
can get anything electronics in 10 minutes. And he was shocked. He was like, "Oh wow, the variety of SKUs,
Right.
specifically Zepto has. It's crazy. Like I can get anything in 10 minutes, and I just wish it, and I have it in my hand. That's how it is. So." Yeah, I cannot even imagine what will happen in next few years. Like, what can I imagine these
Right.
quick com can do? Yeah,
Right. And like how important is like dark stores for sustaining quick commerce? Like is this a sustainable form of doing quick commerce or do you think there will be innovation in the form of dark stores as well?
yeah. I think uh, everything gets outdated, right? So even
Hmm.
dark stores would get outdated at some point of time. I don't know when, but for now, I think this format works for everyone, and that's the reason it's going good. Um, Identifying the location of a dark store, at least in a tier one city, like for example Bangalore, it's it's really hard, I would say, at least in
Right.
case of quick commerce where the promise is 10 minutes, right? So I should be able to deliver in and around that particular dark store, maintaining the other business metrics, which is not just like I just don't have to deliver, but I have to be also delivering in a profitable manner, running the dark store, and also balancing both supply and demand at any given point of time
Right.
throughout the day. So keeping all these factors into consideration, dark store becomes a really critical like the location of dark store itself becomes very critical for any quick com as of today, and that's the reason I think the real estate prices have also been going up and up
Right.
with these quick comms coming into picture. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think like dark stores, it will be like, okay, a house near a dark store will be significantly higher than a house which is away from a dark store? Similar to what we
Maybe,
have with metro stations and all.
maybe in future. Like I mean, that's how
Yeah.
traditionally we've been buying houses, right? We want to
Right.
have like a grocery store nearby, a school
Right.
nearby, or probably tomorrow it would be like, oh, Zepto delivers to this particular residential society in like 5 minutes. That
Right.
could be also the marketing way of how the future cities and construction companies do market themselves. But you never know. But this is also going to catch up soon. I'm hoping that something would change, but that's how we have been evolved. So I would say, yeah.
Right. So you've worked at like three very different companies. Like one is an European travel giant, an Indian mobility company like Ola, and now like fast quick commerce company. Like, how do you think the product culture was like different from each of these companies, like Booking.com to Ola now at Zepto? How was the product culture if you had to compare?
Yeah, I think uh, the product 101 still remains the same, right? You need to have product sense. You need to think backwards from customer. You need to solve the problem that the customer is facing, etc., etc. The only thing that differs from, and mind you, like Booking.com, I don't know what other people perceive about Booking.com. I would still say Booking.com as a huge corporate startup because there are a
Right.
lot of experiments which are happening, and Booking is known for it. They do a lot and lot of ABs throughout. I think till now they've been doing a lot. They have a good platform. They run a lot of experiments. They work like a startup. Their mindset and culture is still like a startup, though it's like a 12-year-old company. Same goes for Ola, which is like more than 13 years old company.
Right.
The basic remains still the same. Nothing changes across all these organizations. Right? You have a problem statement to solve, then you have so many problems to solve. How do you prioritize them? What are the different solutions? Again, how do you prioritize these solutions? And then how do you implement, experiment, see the goodness coming out of it, and then gradually scale it up, or then pivot it. Again, do an experiment, scale it up, understand the behavior, and then so this basic remains the same. The only thing, at least what again I believe is different, um, is the scale of the feature itself, right? So
Hmm.
in an Indian startup, probably our MVP would be a really small and short. The entire cycle of developing a feature is small and short compared to the Western part, where they would try to build a couple of more features together whenever they are trying to launch for it. Um, and I think we are also known for a lot of jugards. So we do a lot of jugad
Right.
to first go into the market and understand, because I think it's important to understand what the customer feels like. You can have a lot of hypothesis. You can think that this is what I believe, but unless until you don't hit the customer, like the first 1%, 10%, 20% rollout, when you start hitting the customer and then looking at the metrics, and then you start pondering,
Right.
oh, why did this metric go down? I never thought this will go down. Or why did this metric even move? My feature didn't shouldn't have even touched this metric because it's nowhere related to
Right.
this. So those are the things that comes up once you start rolling out. And I think again, in many of these startups, we do it quite quickly to understand the customer behavior and then quickly pivot it, do whatever changes that we want to do, and then again experiment and understand. So this entire cycle of building something, experimenting and then pivoting back, scaling it up, experimenting again, is much shorter, I would say, compared to the Western part where
Hmm.
it's much longer. Otherwise, the basics still remain the same. We want to solve what the customer is looking out for as a problem, and the
Right.
basic of product sense and everything that needs to be there. Yeah.
And how has, let's say, AI impacted whatever that is happening in the last 2 years, like your day-to-day work? How are you using AI in terms of location intelligence or maybe in product, or just give if you can share some light on that as well.
Yeah. So I think AI as has made a lot of impact, right? Like from a product management standpoint, like earlier, whatever research that you want to do, etc., etc., you would go to google.com and search for it and then try to find a lot of articles and then understand from it. But with Gemini and Chat GPT, you just ask these questions to them, they come up with a particular answer, though those answers should not be taken at their face
Right.
value. You need to really understand them, what they're trying to say. With more and more such models coming into picture, a lot of these, I would say, administrative activities would fasten up. So this is one part of product management. But when it comes to like building some feature, would also fasten up. So say for example, I don't know if you've seen the recent blog which I've shared, and also Zepto has released it on the location intelligence part itself. Like
Right.
we try to figure out a lot of what you call it as societies and building footprints across the tier one cities wherever we are live. So now this was done in a scale of like probably few handful team, right? So we didn't have like a huge team to do this.
Right.
Majorly driven by data science and AI and
Hmm.
ML. I'm talking about thousands of such societies that we have identified and named them, which will help riders and also customers to add an
Wow.
address or to navigate. And this we've done in a time frame of like 2 to 3 months. So that's how quickly we've done. And traditionally, if I would have chosen like a very older way to do it, this would have taken probably a year or two.
Right.
But then what we said that we want to be AI automation first compared to just a manual process. Though we do have a manual process, but then it is 80% automation, 20% manual, just to ensure that some low confidence outliers are validated before it gets into the system. But otherwise, our focus has been AI first at large, not
Right.
in Zepto, but I think that's how the world is getting into. Like everywhere, it's AI. I've seen a lot of advertisements where they do that. It's AI. Like I saw a Wakefit ad which said that it's an AI bed. I don't know what it means, but
Yeah.
it but but so jokes apart. But then I think AI is a term which is fancy, but
Hmm.
I think actual implementation of AI was into the system for quite some time. But maybe now it has become much more evident in terms of how do you implement it. But yeah.
And how do you push your team to, let's say, use more AI? What are some of the places in your day-to-day processes that you have used AI to fasten things? Can you
Yeah.
shed some light on that as well?
Yeah, I think AI is your first manager. That's how I see it in
Okay.
inside of it. So whenever there is a review or something, I would probably um, tell my fellow peers like maybe you can get this validated through an LLM
Hmm.
models first, and then come back as a team and then spend some time on top of it rather than we sitting together and reviewing it. It could be any new feature, PRD, or it could be also a Figma, for example. Uh, with data, I would not really say let's use AI because then the data
Hmm.
becomes public. So for data
Right.
analysis, probably we would sit down together as a
Oh,
team.
okay.
I mean, that's how we see it. Like we don't want to give data to AI agents outside of your own atmosphere. But then, if it's about research, understanding something which is new, how others are doing, any engineering solve, these kind of questions, I think the first point of contact has been always now these GPTs and LLMs are asking questions to them, and if something is not really clear, and then we would come back as a team and then discuss in our stand-ups and things like that. But yeah, that's how it has been. AI first.
Nice. And do you see we are hearing a lot of product managers developing these PR like prototypes nowadays instead of
Yeah.
PRDs. Do you see that culture in Zepto as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Like hands-on. Uh, since I have an experience again talking about location intelligence myself, right?
Right.
Since I've been into this field for quite some time, I have also developed a bit of technical knowledge. So
Mm.
I I sit with my engineers and try to understand if something technical does not work. And I vividly remember one engineer asking, "Are you being like a software engineer before you started doing product management?" I said, "No, not really." But then it's important for PMs to understand the technical bits of it. And me
Right.
being much more experienced, I do understand it. But I think recently I saw Lovables, right?
Right.
I mean, you can build without knowing anything, like no front end, no back end. You just build a lot of prototypes, and then it's basically pitching your idea, right? You want to pitch your
Mm.
idea. So these are like a good starter kits. You don't have to hire a team to do these kind of things. You build this prototype, get some funding, validate that idea, right? Also important is validate that idea. You might think that's a very good idea, but what people think about it, validate it, and then come back and say that, do you want to invest in this particular idea, yes or no? So these are like really good tools which are coming up into the market, which will help all of us in a good way. Yeah.
Right.
It's-
And interesting thing that you mentioned was that like you don't give data to ChatGPT or anything. So you don't have this on-premise development where you use, because I feel like not giving data and like using LLM, so using any kind of data science on data itself is a huge miss. Maybe like maybe we are not utilize.
Okay, maybe I was not very clear. So when I said
Yeah.
data, I meant the metrics coming out of it, or the
Okay.
analysis from a product metrics perspective. Those data sets is what
Okay.
we don't expose it
Right. Right.
uh, to these GPTs. But at large, yeah, we do have a lot of models which are trained on
Right.
data sets, which helps us to improve from where we are. So yeah, no doubt about it. Those are
Yeah.
already in place.
Right. And how I see like local, like this location intelligence, geospatial data seems to be very niche. So how do you, let's say, hire product managers in your team in Ola, in Zepto? What kind of experience do you look at when if people are interested to go into these type of fields?
Yeah. So I think since I I'm there as an expert, right, or as an SME for geospatial data, um, I don't see people hiring in like an APM role or a PM1 role having like a very core geospatial experience per se. It's
Right.
also easily transferable, right? Because you use Google Maps, right? So it's easy to kind of teach these folks like what it means. Maybe it will take some time for them to understand the nuances of how probably routing works. What is routing? What is from
Hmm.
point A to point B? What are the attributes that impact routing and things like that? So those things might take some time, but at large, I would say it is easy to transfer knowledge. It's also helpful for me to brush up a lot of these basics about geospatial data in itself. So I don't really look out for people who have knowledge in geospatial sector, and it's also very difficult to find per se.
Right.
Um, and I believe that also they, if they are not from this background, they might also bring a different perspective
Right.
to this side of it, because I am from a geospatial background. I don't want the opposite person to be also from geospatial background. So it brings a different perspective. We can debate a lot, discuss, and understand, and that becomes a lot of uh, a good product management discovery phase for us when we are building a product or a feature per se. So yeah, I think except for me in Zepto, like no one has come from a geospatial background. Neither the data science
Hmm.
folks or the engineering folks or the analysts or other PMs who are working. So it has been a really good exposure compared to my previous experience. Like in booking, we had a lot of geospatial experienced team members. TomTom, yes. Ola also, yes. We had a lot of geospatial. Zepto is kind of different. Um,
Right.
so it's been a really good experience working with the non-geospatial folks, but also explaining them. They also are learning something new. They are also excited every day what is coming up. compared to like specifically the engineers. Like they like to take up new challenges. They don't want to do the same thing again and again. So it's
Right.
challenging for them also. Um, so it's been a really good experience with Zepto for sure.
Got it. And I think like when you talk about this, I also get this another question from a lot of product managers, especially me as well. So like I'm like a new product manager who has started working in B2B, right, for say for the first 3 years of my life. Now I've seen people who have stayed in B2B for like
Yeah.
10, 15 years building specialty. I've seen people who have moved around from fintech, B2C, B2B, product managers. So what do you usually suggest these product managers? Stick to one industry, stick to one field, or maybe move around, see what's the world is like? Because then there's this one side where people value that specialization that you have developed over the next 10, 15 years. But then you're also seeing that there's a lot of exposure and a lot of cross thinking that also happens because of cross
True.
industry experience. So what do you see? What's your take on this?
Yeah, I think this is a very good question, right? And I got exposed to B2C with Booking.com, right?
Right.
That was my first B2C kind of an organization. Before that, here was more of a B2B organization. Um, the thing that comes with B2C is there is a lot of exposure. Um, and this is how I see it, at least, and it was quite fascinating and exciting for me. I can see a feature that I've built and my peer or my friend using it and giving feedback about it and how
Right.
cool that can be compared to a B2B product where maybe at some point of time some user might use it, you don't even know what and how it's going to be used. So that's the key differentiation that at least I had in my head. But I want everyone to try both of them and see what excites them. Maybe some people B2B excites them and they want uh, like a more in-depth custom solutions that you build for B2B and over a period of time, right? B2B is also a bit slower compared to B2C. You don't build a lot of things, a lot of features. So I think everyone has their own choice. They should try both of them if they want to, and if they feel either one of them is better, then get stuck to that for your entire career, or else like experiment, because I think life is also like an experiment, right? You need to experiment with a lot of things and understand which one suits you better, which doesn't suit you better. And booking was my first, and after that, for a brief moment, I thought B2C is still not that great, and I went back to TomTom, which is more again B2B. But even there, I was connected with a lot of B2C. So TomTom also had a B2C side of it.
Right.
So I used to talk and work with a lot of B2C guys. And after that, I felt no, I think I should be focusing on B2C because that's where a lot of experimentation happens, A to B,
Hmm.
and you really know the customer, like how do they behave, how do they react to a particular feature being launched, how the metric moves. Though I'm not very great at mathematics, but I love seeing numbers moving up and down and trying to find correlation between my feature and why those numbers are moving. So I really like that, and that's the reason I said, yeah, B2C works good to me, and I'm seeing a real impact, and that drives me, and that excites me, and I wanted to still stay in B2C, and that's the reason I went from Ola to also Zepto now, and maybe in the future also B2C, but I'll for now stick to B2C at large. Yeah.
Got it. And what about industry? Like, do you suggest sticking to one industry or maybe just move around, building that expertise or moving around, getting different expertise?
Yeah. Yeah, very tough question, and you're asking the wrong person because I've been into one.
Exactly.
But again, what I saw in myself is like I don't want to get poked down with just one specific use case, so I shifted a lot of use cases. So the first experience that I had was more automotive, more B2B ish, where I learned a lot of my basics around geospatial. But then when I switched, it was travel. So, how location intelligence can help the travel industry? What are the different use cases for them? So, that's how I kind of shifted my career path. And then after travel, I went to mobility, which was Ola, right? where I kind of understood how location intelligence can help mobility move around, how my experience can help to shape up a few things out there, and build from grounds up. So even booking was 0 to 1 at large, I would say. Even Ola was 0 to 1. Zepto is also 0 to 1. So
Right.
again, it's a quick so commerce. I wanted to explore how can I help quick to deliver better, faster, more accurate.
Right.
With geospatial. So that's how I have been evolving my overall experience, though being into a geospatial kind of a background, but still different use cases for me, which builds up really nice on my resume and also gives me a lot of exposure to new things. Like there were a lot of things that I never knew before joining Zepto. There were a lot of metrics that I never knew, like
Hmm.
L1, L2 metrics that impacted because of a particular change in a location data or a map. So these things I've learned in Zepto. So it's a
Hmm.
good learning opportunity also, and it also opens up a lot of different avenues later on in your life. And that's how I see it. So I would always suggest people to experiment and see what do they like, what are they comfortable in, what they want to do, and then take a conscious call rather than just saying that I don't want to do, because then
Right.
probably you might like something else and you're missing out on that. Yeah.
Right. Like finally, I want to talk a bit about maybe AI agents and want to talk about like how do you see AI agents fit into like any use cases of Zepto maybe? Do you see that so far or do you see that coming? How do you think AI agents will fit into Zepto?
I think a lot of the customer chats these days are driven
Hmm.
through AI agents. Um, these AI agents will evolve again. Again, out there, it's a data flywheel. So the
Right.
more data that you get, the better your agent's performance would be, the accuracy of the responses, reduced hallucination overall, and improve customer experience at the end of the day. Right. So this is going to be the future, and this is going to stay. Only I think what I mean, this is I see AI as a change that happened to all of us back in 2000 when computers were
Right.
introduced in your life, right? Everything got digital, or similar to a mobile phone got introduced to everyone and had we got access to a lot of this digital kind of AI is similar to that. It will make things easy for you. It will make a lot of things which are mundane and like repetitive to be much more efficient. Um, I mean, it will also improve the skill set because many people are scared about these agents, right? Like, will I lose my job or what will
Right.
happen to my job in maybe 2025, sorry, 2030, 2040 because of these AI. So many people
Right.
scared about it. And what I say is like, it's going to just improve it. I mean, probably you can do X number of things in a shorter period of time compared to what you were doing in like 2020 because of these AI agents and
Right.
ML models and automation. So that's how I see AI shaping up. These agents also bringing a lot of efficiency to the overall business. And at the end of the day, reducing cost, helping profitability,
Right.
impacting those key business metrics without changing the customer experience or improving, I would say, the customer experience. That's how I see it.
And I see particularly like product managers being scared the most because like generally if what we have seen is product managers are people who don't have hard skills, right? Per se.
Yeah.
They don't know coding. They're somewhere in the middle and they feel like, okay, if AI can do anything, why am I needed? So what do you generally tell to these kind of people? Like what will happen to product managers if AGI is achieved?
Yeah, I think product management is also a skill, right? Like you need to think, like you need to first identify what problem you're trying to solve.
Right.
No AI agent is going to come and tell you, hey, Thiagarajan, this is the problem in Zepto that you're going to solve. It's about how hands-on you are in the entire process. How do you understand the entire business running? What are the problems that you see that is prevalent in the system? What do you want to improve? So these kind of things like ideation and discovery part of it will will never be AI driven.
Hmm.
Um, it will be still you would need PMs to do this ideation and discovery. What would probably improve is again maybe um, writing PRDs would get
Right.
easier. Again, you cannot take the PRDs which are written by the agents directly and just copy paste them into your PRDs. You need to understand what each and every statement means, and you want to get into the depth of it and give some context to that PRD also, and every line that you're writing, because an AI agent would not have all the context around it.
Right.
So some things would get maybe whiteboarding would get easier, like prototypes. Doing things like Lovable
Right.
will help you to make prototypes much more quicker and easier to present your idea. But the idea has to be someone like a PM who is driving it. And then comes execution. Again, execution can be automated at large. Like you can have a lot of these agents following up with this Jira system or ticketing system to ensure that your product feature is getting launched, blah blah blah, and then some system to monitor the metrics and things like that. But again, you will need to give some input to the agent to understand what metrics that you need to track, etc., etc. So again, some things would become much more easier, but it's not
Hmm.
going to replace. And your so you could probably say, for example, doing like couple of features in couple of quarters, just a random number, uh, that
Right.
could increase by an X or 2X, right? You could do more in that period of time.
Right. So you're saying it'll make us more efficient and more productive even in the long term after AGI is achieved rather than completely replacing anyone and
Yeah,
any
yeah,
one of
yeah,
us.
absolutely. Because AI agents don't have the entire context of where you're working. It doesn't have that brain. I mean, over a period of time, maybe 10, 15 years, you never know
Yeah. Nobody knows
uh,
what is happening.
happening. But at least in the near future, 5, 6 years, I don't see them overpowering some of the PMs, right? You need to understand what feature that you want to build, what problems are there in your system. The AI agent is not going to come and tell you, I'd say. Yeah.
Awesome. All right,
Uh,
Thiagarajan, I think this was really good. I really enjoyed this conversation. It was long, but I think I personally learned a lot about like location intelligence, geospatial data, how are all of these data points formed. Like, do you have some final words maybe for the audience out there?
Um, yeah, I think one thing that I wanted to say is like geospatial world is a very niche world. It's a very close-knitted world.
Right.
I would recommend a lot of folks, at least in their early stages, if they are interested to explore career opportunities in this particular field, if they are excited, because this is becoming more and more needed in real world, like to solve a lot of day-to-day problems, like for example, urban planning, traffic,
Right.
all these real world problems are existing right now, and geospatial data can help them. So if anyone is interested, they should go ahead and get started with this for now. Yeah, that's how I would say. Thank you so much,
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Nilin.
Thiagan. It
Nilin,
was lovely talking to you.
same here. You have a nice day ahead. Talk to you soon.